Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julie. Today I'm here with the creative design team and we are sharing our Christmas in July projects. For my project, I will be creating a one-sheet wonder using the double wonder concept from Karen. I will link her video down below. This is an awesome concept if you want to do a whole bunch of cards, and if you're like me and you love slimline cards, you're gonna love this video. I've tweaked some of Karen's measurements only because I want to use my card bases and envelopes from Close to My Heart. These measure 7 by 8.5. For my project today, I'll be using the Green and Gold collection from Stampin' Up. It is an online exclusive and you don't want to miss it. These hollow ones right here are really cool because they cut right into the designer series papers. And then you have a lot of standalone dies. I'm going to use pretty much these ones here. I probably will sprinkle in a few of these. So this is the Golden Greenery set. And then for my sentiments and my tags, look at this. Isn't this awesome? You have tons of sentiments here and you can mix and match. I really like that they have a script and then just a plain old font. And if you love tags, this one here is not going to disappoint. Now you're probably wondering, what is a double wonder concept? Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick your favorite papers. I selected 2 papers from that collection and I selected this one here, and you can see that I've already cut into it. Now you can do 5 cards if you want, if you like the back and front from the paper that you select. Or if you're like me and you love monochromatic, you're going to go ahead and you're going to cut another sheet. Do you see this one here? This is another sheet. So I'm going to create a set using gold. And then here at the back, I'm going to use a set using green. The first decision you'll have to make is select your designer series papers. Now, these 2 papers right here are what I had left over from my scrapbooking workshop. So my decision was quite easy to do. And if you want to see that, I will link it down below and at the end of the video. So these are the 2 that I will be working on today. And then you have to create layering if you want. So these here are done out of gold glitter paper, and this is the Close to My Heart one. And this is going to layer up on your pieces. So you can see that you can cut 3 from a 12 by 12, and then you end up with scraps, which is perfect because your scraps, you're going to use them to create these really cool embellishments with these dies. So these are the card fronts, and I'm going to sneak underneath here and show you the inside. Now the inside here were cut using dies, and I really don't remember where these came from, but the measurements are 3 by 8, and the inside here is a 2.5 by 7.5. You're going to need 2 sheets to cut the inside sentiment piece. And you can see right here on the 12 by 12, you can cut out 4, and then you have leftover pieces. And again, don't forget, the leftover pieces are going to be used for embellishing your card. So by this time, you're probably wondering, if you haven't seen it before, what is a double sheet wonder? So let me move these out of the way. So again, these are the inside pieces. These are the front of the cards. These are my gold ones. And then I've repeated that same process with green. So I've got my inside pieces and I have the front. My card fronts are all ready to go. Now you can see that I've stayed true to my monochromatic form. And I just really like it. I find that it's very classic and you don't have to overthink it too much if you're using the same colors. Now let's get back to the designer series papers right here and how we're going to cut them to create 5 cards with a half sheet. So this measures 6 by 12. And believe it or not, you get 5 full slimline cards in here. For this project today, I'm actually going to repeat that twice. So I am going to end up with 10 beautiful cards. Now, if you're using a full sheet of designer series papers, you can actually make 20 of these cards. So I think that that's a really good bang for your buck if you need to make a lot of cards. So let's cut this together, and it really doesn't take long. I'm going to move this out of the way. So let's start cutting these pieces together. I'm going to put this right here so you can follow along, and I'm going to use half of a sheet. I like to use my guillotine trimmer. I just find that it's easier for me. So again, this is a 6-inch, and we're just going to cut right along at 3 inches. We're going to take one of these 3x12s, and we are going to trim that down to 8 inches. So this is card number 1. Now you have the choice. You can use this side or this side, but we're going to worry about that in a moment. So here you have a 4-inch piece. I'm going to actually cut this in half, and you can do whatever you want with this 4-inch piece. You can keep it intact, or you can cut it in half, and I felt that cutting it in half really looked pretty. We're going to take our next 3x12. We're going to cut it again at 8. We have another 4-inch piece. Hopefully I have everything in frame here for you. So this 4-inch piece, I want you to cut that 4 strips of 1 inch. So 1, 2, and 3. So you've got 4 pieces right here, and that's going to form a card. Now, if you're looking here, you have enough to make 1, 2, 3, 4 cards, but I want to make 5 cards. So we're going to take one of these panels, and we're going to cut that at a diagonal. I'm going to bring my point right here on the edge, and I'm going to do the same thing right here. All right, so you've got your point here and your point here, and we're just going to cut that. So now you actually have 2. These are the pieces here for your 5 Slimline cards. But because I want to keep them monochromatic, basically what you would do if you had just one designer series papers, you would alternate every second cut. This one would go this way, and you could totally do it this way, but I kind of like monochromatic, so that's why I went into a second sheet. So we're going to go in this second sheet, and we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to put it right here at the 3-inch mark. We're going to cut down. We have our 2 pieces here. We're going to rotate that to 8-inch. So this is this piece right here. Now for me, for my first card, this was really busy. So I'm going to select these 2. So I know right away that I can start making decisions as to how I want to do these cards. So this is card number 1. And then we're going to bring this 4-inch piece. So this 4-inch piece, we cut it in half. If you remember that, you can keep it as a 4-inch. I just want to do a 2-inch right here. So I'm going to cut that down, and then I have 2 more pieces. So again, I'm going to keep in the monochromatic feel. I've got my 2 pieces here, and if you think about it, try and keep your pieces together so that when you separate them on the card, you've got a continuous pattern. If you don't, I really don't think people are going to see it. The same thing for this one here. So again, I know the decision I'm going to make for this card. I'm going to use these sides right here. We're going to take our 3x12. We are going to cut that down to 8, right? And this is the one that I'm going to cut on an angle. So let's do that. Very much like this piece here, I'm angling my pieces at the top and at the bottom, and I'm just going to cut that down. So I will have 2 monochromatic gold, and then I will have 2 monochromatic green. We just have to do this last piece right here. So for this last piece, again, I'm cutting them at 1 inch. So you can see that the cutting is very easy, very simple. Got my 4 pieces right here. I'm going to take my green pieces out and I'm going to add my gold to this card. And this card here is going to be done in green. That's it for the cutting. Well, of course, other than you need to cut yourself some fronts and the inside piece. So let's start putting these together. For the video today, I'm going to put together the green because I find that it shows better on camera. All right, let's put card number 1 together. I've got all of the cut pieces here ready to go. We'll go through that together. I'm using a card base and envelope, and these are from my stash. These are the bulk orders that we used to get, and I thought I would put them to good use. I'm going to set these to the side, and I am not going to concentrate on the inside piece right away because we're going to do them all the same at the end, but I just wanted to show you that I do have the piece and it's ready to go. So I'm going to set that over. And then we're going to start putting our card together. Now again, if you remember, this was your card front and it measures 8 1/4 by 3 1/4. This is the designer paper series and this is the back, this is the front. Now I know that you're probably thinking this is quite dark, but hold on, I'll show you a little trick that I can do. And then I did go ahead, I stamped my sentiment with the same color, and I pulled from these die cuts that I've already done. Again, these are from the workshop that I did, and I tried to not cut into another sheet. I end up with a full sheet of designer series papers and then 2 full sheets of the vellum. So I kind of snuck in a few in here, and from my leftovers, if you want, from the scraps, I was able to cut a few of these really nice sprigs. I have the satin ribbon that comes with this set. I haven't played with ribbon in a while and I thought it was a lot of fun. And I am going to add a really cute bow. Now you're probably wondering, how did you make this cute bow? It's so perfect. Well, it's this little thing here. It is called a bow maker, and I will list where I got this on Amazon, and it's pretty fail proof. It makes these really cute bows. Even if they're satin and wide, they do turn out quite nice. Let's put this card together. First, I want to address the back here. When I layer this up, it's quite dark. If you like that, that is fine. And again, here I'm using cardstock from my stash. I actually pulled in New England Ivy, and the beauty of the Close to My Heart cardstock is that the inside is white. So we're going to distress that by sanding it. I'm going to move these to the side. Now, if you don't have white core cardstock, you're not going to be able to do this, but if you do, I highly recommend it. It's just another little touch, but it looks really, really good. So I'm going to sand this and I'll show you the result. Now, this is what it looks like once it's all sanded, and you did notice that I was working on a piece of paper to protect my mat right here because you can damage it when you sand it. And this here is just a sanding block that I get where I get my nails done. I've actually bought a few and it sands beautifully. So now that this is sanded down, let me show you how that looks against this paper. Do you see that there's a lot more contrast between the two, and it just gives it that little lift that I needed. To further accentuate this piece, I am going to ink distress the edges, and I'm just going to drag my ink pad all around this piece. Again, it's giving it a little bit more dimension. Now you can just put all these pieces together and not add the ink distressing, the sanding, and all of the good stuff. The next step, I am going to add the ribbon around these pieces. Well, actually, I'm going to glue this together, add the ribbon, and then we are going to decorate our cards with these pieces that I've got here ready to go, and this awesome sentiment piece. When I create cards, I usually do them with Tombow glue. I find that it's easy and it's very, very quick. So we're going to add our two pieces together. Now for me, I also like to add a little bit of glue on my ribbon just so that it stays in place. I also use my mat to make sure it's in the center. So I'm going to center this piece. I'm going to grab my ribbon, and then I am going to add this right in the center of my card. And I'm going to flip it over and tack it around. So there's your front. We're going to bring in our card base. I'm going to fold that in half. And you can use a bone folder if you want to make sure it's nice and flat. And we're going to add this to the front right here. And you see how cute that is? And the fact that this panel is so dark, by adding it to a white base, it really does lighten up the entire card. So we're going to glue that to the front of our card base. I'm going to add a couple of dots of glue here to make sure my ribbon doesn't slide out. And we're going to pop this right in the front. And again, the liquid glue gives me time to adjust to make sure everything is nice and straight. Okay, this is coming along really nicely, and you can see that this was quite easy. Now I know that I want to add my sentiment somewhere here, and I want to add all of these cute pieces. I did go ahead and I did add some dimensionals in back of here, and we are going to kind of layer them up. And I think I want them about here. We're going to start with this one here. I'm going to tack this down. We're going to adhere that directly on the ribbon, and I'm just making sure that I'm giving myself enough space. I'm going to add some glue, and you really only need to add it in the center. So I'm going to pop this right here. And then I'm going to add the two glitter ones. Okay, we're almost done here. You can see that this comes together. Once you have all your pieces cut, my recommendation would be to go ahead, cut all your pieces, and then just do the assembly. I actually like this tearaway tape quite a bit to adhere the bows down. It seems to work really, really nicely. So I'm just going to burnish that in. You saw that I left myself quite a bit of room here. It's because I do want to see that little hole. So I'm going to add my bow right on my bracket. And then again, I'm going in my stash. I'm using some glitter gems, and I'm just going to add a few here and there. And this is where I want to put that one. I think that it's a really nice touch. You see it, and then we'll just add a couple on this side. I usually add my gems close to the sentiment because it highlights the sentiment. So this is card number 1, and we are going to finish it off with this inside piece, but hang tight. We're going to do all 5 cards, and then I'll show you how to address the inside. Let's move on to card number 2. Okay, for card number 2, they're pretty much the same because we've got that angle. I've gone ahead and I've assembled one, and I'll assemble the other just to make it a little bit different. This one here, I added 2 of those really pretty die cuts, and I added some vellum pieces, but the sentiment and all of the pieces are pretty much the same. And this one here, the focus is more on the center. I am going to change this up a tiny little bit. Even if we're working on one sheet wonders, I know that most of us like the variety in creating, so we're gonna do this one slightly different. I'm gonna set this one to the side. I'm gonna move my little pieces. Very much like the first card, I am going to sand this piece to reveal some of the white core. You can see here that it does change the cardstock quite a bit. Again, if you don't have two-tone cardstock or a white core cardstock, you could always take white pigment ink and just drag it on your panel just to give it a little bit of difference. So we're going to add our piece here at the front, and I am going to add ribbon, and I'm going to introduce a little bit of, this is just DMC floss. I got it at Michael's, and I find that it really dresses up this ribbon. So let's go ahead and assemble this card. And then I'm going to introduce this gold thread. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces. 1 and 2. I'm not going to wrap that around. Don't need to do that. I'm going to flip that over, and you can tack that down with whatever tape you would like. And I think that this is a really, really nice accent. So now it's just a matter of adding this sentiment. Okay, now that I have all of my pieces, I am going to just kind of position my sentiment where I think I would like it to go. It's not quite in the center, but you know what? I kind of like it when it hits that angle. Oh, we're going to take that in consideration. I'm going to add my darker piece of gold. Again, you can use whatever gold scraps you have in your crafty space, because I find mixing up different combination of gold between glitter, matte, and really shiny, it looks really, really good. Right, so here we have it. And we need to create our bow. Let me bring in my little gadget here and show you. It is very simple. This is a 12-inch piece of ribbon, and you cross it over. This is the important part. You cross it over. This is the short tail. I'm going to go underneath. I'm going to go over. And the other important part, especially with satin ribbon, is that you have to tuck this one underneath and in, so that the knot looks better. Doesn't really matter with all ribbon, but I find that with satin ribbon, the direction does matter. And then here you have a perfect little bow, and I usually just trim off the tails. I'm going to go one going up, and this one. There we go. So you've got your little tails. We're going to bring this back. I'm going to add the bow. I think I'm going to put the tails going out. What I like about this is that it kind of gives you a continuation of wrapping around, and then you have this big luxurious bow. It's so, so pretty. So we're going to bring back our little dots, our little gems, and I'm going to add one here and one here. So it doesn't matter that I have a hole. And we are going to add our bow with some tearaway tape. Isn't that cute? Super cute, really, really pretty and easy. Basically, you have a 2-for-1 here, but they do look different. Now you can make them exactly the same or experiment with what you have and create a different look for both cards. So this is card number 2 and number 3. So let's move right along to card number 4. Here are the pieces for card number 4. So they've all been pre-cut, and I've got my 2 little pieces here. Again, if you can remember that this is a continuous pattern. If not, I don't think it makes a big difference. I am going to do very much like all of the other cards. I'm going to do some ink distressing with the same color ink. So this is Mossy Meadow, I believe. I'm using New England Ivy, and I'm going to do the same thing where I am going to sand this piece here to give it a little bit more character. Now again, if you don't have white core cardstock, I would recommend just dragging white pigment ink on here, and it would give it a really nice look, or even embossing that piece. So I'm going to protect my surface, we're going to bring back this little piece and we're going to sand away. So this one here, I have to sand half of the panel because this is showing quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, let's put this card together. This again comes together very nicely. Now, if you didn't cut this into 2 pieces, you would have one solid piece. I kind of like to give it a little bit of separation. It just gives it a little bit more interest. So we're going to glue down these pieces. And again, I love this concept. I love the designs. I find that they're easy to put together. And you kind of want that when you are working with multiple cards. We're going to do the same thing as we did for all of the other ones. We're going to add a piece of ribbon. Now I tack my ribbons down. I don't know how you guys address ribbon when you're putting ribbon on a card. I find that this Slimline card kind of needs a little bit of help just to keep the ribbon tacked down. Let me know what is your trick, because I found that this has been helpful. So you've got that nice piece, and here is where I'm going to add this gorgeous, gorgeous die cut out of gold. I think it looks fabulous. I'm just adding a little bit of glue on the back of each of those little leaves. I'm going to add one here. And this is card number 4. I really like the way this turned out. I really like this die quite a bit. And we're going to move on to the last card, which is card number 5. Let's bring in the pieces for card number 5. If you remember, we cut these 3x1 pieces. So we've got 4 of those. I'm going to add 2 of these really pretty dies, and then we're going to run this across. I think it's going to look really great. We're going to do the ink distressing on these papers. I just find that it gives them a little bit more separation and it provides a little bit more detail. So I'm just going to run that through. And then by this time, you know the drill. I am going to sand this piece to give it a little bit more character. And then we're going to add our ribbon, our little gold thread, and our embellishment. So pretty much they're the same as far as decorating them. You've got different pieces because we've cut different pieces, but the ribbon is the same. It's always in the center. You have a different bracket based on the piece, and then you decorate with the pieces that you like. We're going to add our gold pieces at the back. I kind of like seeing the ribbon when it runs clear across the card front. We're just adding some glue in the back of each of these little leaves. I'm going to put one right here. And then I'm going to run my ribbon across in the center as much as possible. So again, you can see that there's a lot of repeating elements. We are sanding in this case. We are adding a little bit of ink distressing, and then I'm always running a ribbon in the center, and I really do like the look of this when I add that to the top. So we're going to put that on the card front. That looks really good. And then we're just going to find the center, and we're going to add these pieces here, and I'm going to alternate them. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I find the center and I start just off the center, and I'm leaving just equal distance in between each of these pieces. Right. So if that's the 6-inch mark, I'm going to tack one here, and then I'm going to follow up with this one. And again, I'm just eyeballing this and adding them to the front of my card. I think that that looks really sharp. So we're going to add our sentiment right smack in the center. I've got a couple of pieces of double-sided tape. So we've got this. We're going to add a couple of gems. One at the front, one at the back. So if you don't like making bows, this is a really good design. And you know what? This could be your design for all of the cards. You could cut them all in the same way. So these are all of the cards that we've made with, believe it or not, half a sheet of pattern paper. Isn't that amazing? Here's the other one. Now the next thing that we have to do is we have to address the inside, and I like to keep that for last because I do a little bit of an assembly line. So let's do that. And these cards are done. I'll do the gold ones off camera, and then we'll come back and take a look at the entire 10 cards for this project. So for the inside of the card, I chose this one here. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And I'm going to show you, because I have a Slimline, how I'm going to stamp that. I'm using my stamp positioner here just to make it easier on myself. So I'm going to push it here to the side because I want to leave myself some room to write a personal sentiment. Now you can pop it in the center, but I'm going to decorate the inside. So I'm going to pop it right here, and we're going to stamp all of them in the same way. I like to give them a 2-pass to make sure that it's nice and dark. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that for all of the green cards. And I'm also going to do it for the gold cards. So if you're doing 10 cards, you can do this little assembly line and get all of the inside of your cards done in the same way. And I find that by using my MISTI here, this process is easier because I don't have to think about it. I know that it's going to go exactly at the same spot, and it's going to stamp. And if it doesn't stamp perfectly in the first go, I can just go ahead and give it another pass. So I'm going to do that for all 10 pieces, and then I'll show you how to decorate them. I've gone ahead and I stamped all of my sentiments, and you can keep it this way. And of course, I got a little ink blub here that we're going to have to address, but they're all stamped in the very same way. And now I want to decorate them. So I'm going to bring back this set, and I'm going to pull these 2 pieces here. So it's these 2 sprigs, and they look really good when they're stamped. So let me get some blocks. All right, so I've got them on blocks. I'm going to use the ink that I have, which is Fern and New England Ivy. Find that that was the closest match that I could get out of my inks that I have currently. So we're going to decorate the inside here, and I think that it just really finishes the card. I am going to mask off an area. Actually, I'm going to flip my mat over. This is what I love about these mats. So Stampin' Up, if you're listening, this would be a really good investment because you can use them for stamping. You can use them for pretty much anything. Now I'm to the side here, but I want to show you what I'm going to do. We're going to use both. And I'm going to go in to my lightest shade. I'm going to stamp off. I'm going to test it to make sure that I have a nice impression, and I do. So I'm going to stamp off. I'm going to do second generation, and I'm going to add that right here. And I really like the way this turns out. So I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to make sure I get a good impression. I'm going to stamp off, and then I'm going to line these up. And look at that. Isn't that cute? So when we put this on the inside of our card, I think that it looks really, really sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of the cards. I'm even going to do it for these ones here because I figured why not use green as opposed to just black, and then I can add this to them. So I'm going to go ahead, get busy, and stamp all of them. Let's take a look at the 10 completed cards. The gold ones here were done exactly the same way, and I did stamp them using gold embossing powder. And I think it's a good time to remind you that if you're using a Versamark, it's a really good time to re-ink it to start getting ready for the holidays, because this is when I usually take out my embossing powder. Now, if you're wondering if you're going to run out of ribbon, I did, but I actually created 20 cards. And then I went into my stash and I got this at Michael's. This is just a nylon, 100% nylon in the same tone. And I think that it looks okay. You know, because I'm showing it to you right here. So this bow here was done. So I ran out for one bow and the last card. But for the most part, if you don't waste it, you should be able to do almost 20 cards. So that's a really good bang for your buck. So I thought that I'd share that with you. And that's about it for me. I hope that you've picked up a few helpful tips. And again, thank you, Karen, for sharing your template with us. I'm playing it forward and sharing my inspiration from that concept. If you want to see the original concept from Karen, I will list her video down below. And if you want to see the rest of the Creative Design team's Christmas in July projects, that will be right here at the end. Have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. If you're interested in a scrapbooking workshop using this same collection, click this video right here on the left-hand side. See you there.